Welcome, Walnut. I'm Lara, but you can call me Laz, your host for Walnut Wednesday. This is your reminder to be brave, be yourself, and know that you can make the world a better place just by what you decide today. Here, I'm going to share my weekly walnuttings with you on a Wednesday. Hi Walnut, it is Laz here for another episode of Walnut Wednesday. I hope you are having a wonderful week. I hope that you have had a wonderful break, and I hope that you are feeling refreshed, happy, bappy, all of the things, and that everything has been running really nice and smoothly for you this week. I hope. This week, Walnut, stuff that's been coming up for me is back around the topic of the voice thing. And I wanted to just chat a little bit about people who are loud and then people who are like us, who find it really hard to communicate when our volume isn't as loud. I've had a couple of situations, one in particular where I felt comfortable enough to be able to say, just because your voice is louder than mine doesn't mean that I don't get to be listened to. And then in other spaces where it's like, I just think it's sort of in my head. I have noticed a little bit of a correlation between male and female, where the men that I have been speaking to, their actual volume is louder, but their voices are louder. I have found that that's just an interesting little extra thing. I remember my boss ages ago, I did a summit on like women in public service, and I did a little recap about it, and my boss said, I posted all my takeaways of about using your voice and all this great stuff that some of the speakers shared, and she replied to me and said, "Men only hear men," which I thought was like, wow, okay. But this episode was not on that topic. It just was an interesting finding that in the moments where I have felt like, okay, just because you're loud and I'm not doesn't mean that my opinion isn't valid, has been when I've been talking with a man. So really, really interesting. But Walnut, I guess I don't really have an example or a situation that I particularly want to share with you, but I just wanted to let you know that you're not alone if you feel like your voice isn't being heard, and it is a really, really difficult walnutty thing to try and use your voice. And I find also when I'm like, tell me if you get this, Walnut, but when I'm in a room with lots of people who are very enthusiastic or group situations, I notice my open throat center, like I want to share something. I want to share something because I want to be a part of the thing, and I end up like giving myself social anxiety because I talk over someone or whatever, and I'm like, why did I even need to say that? And then I go to start my story, and then my voice goes funny and catches, and then I don't tell the story as good as the story is in my head when I'm holding the mic, and it's like, why did I even need to speak in the first place? So I think it's one thing I have observed with this whole voice thing and not being the loudest voice in the room thing is that the people that tend to hold the mic a lot more say the same stuff. They say the same stuff, and I think, and what I have noted and found interesting is they say the same stuff because they don't feel listened to, which kind of baffles me because they don't ever, in my situations, I've never really been offered the opportunity to speak either. So they don't ask for my opinion or if I'm listening or if I even want to be listening a lot of the time. And so I just have found that they also feel not listened to. And so some of the stuff that they say is really like repetitive and the same. And how can I make it so that I get my opinion across or feel like I get to say something without while making them feel listened to? And I guess, Walnut, this whole episode is just a reminder to to you and to me and to when we do the talking, like that situation of when my voice caught and being in the group situation and then the story isn't right. And why am I even telling the story in the first place? Is that kind of like it's not even active listening, but that active thinking before speaking? How relevant and potent is what I have to share in the world? Am I talking for just talking's sake? Am I just using air because I want the noise and sound of my voice to be heard? Or is it something genuinely helpful or comforting or making an actual impact? Or am I just repeating myself constantly? Or am I bossing someone around? Or am I doing this? Or am I doing that? I think all of this voice thing, and I just that comment that I said just keeps repeating itself to me so much, Walnut, which is why I feel like I wanted to talk about this with you today. Is just because your voice is louder than mine doesn't mean that I don't get to speak or that my opinion isn't valid. And it's so hard as a growing walnut to feel that way, just to feel like because we're not loud that we're so nice or very kind or can be walked all over or that we just sit there and listen. I got compared, I've been rerunning The Hills, Walnut, and I got compared to Whitney. And I love Whitney. She's a great character. Um, but yeah, they were like, "Oh my God, you're like Whitney. You just sit there and listen to everybody's problems and don't really get to share your own." And I was like, oh my God. Yeah, I kind of do take on that role. Like a lot of the time I just sit and listen and observe. And um well, I come and share on here, don't I, Walnut? We have a lot of lazy waffles that go on here. This whole episode has already started to be a waffle. But what I'm trying to get at is that sometimes there is so much power in just thinking about what you want to say before you say it, or thinking about what you want to get out of the words that are coming out of your mouth. They are special. They get to be special. They get to be powerful manifestations of what you want to come true through sound of your voice. Um, and we do get caught up in being in the situations and or like caught up in the emotions and all of the thing where just stuff vomits out of our mouth and we lose that kind of like sacred specialness of our voice. And that is just like from societal things, that is just from like being in group situations, that is just from social media to an extent and how busy and oversaturated our like lives are. I just started twitching from even thinking of the world. Oh, um, yeah. I just wanted to, I suppose, remind you, Walnut, that your voice is sacred. Your voice is special, whether it is loud, and or loud in pitch and tone, or just you talk a lot, and to just remind you, or the opposite, with you if you just are a little bit like me, where you sit back and observe and suck in all of the other words and then think very profound, wild things in your head, but they don't come out properly when you use your voice. Um, that it is still a strength and a superpower and a sacred thing. So the next time you go to use your voice, I would love for you to just try and be present with that and think about the impact that you're making, or what you're trying to get out of using your voice. Is it just having a vent and needing to release something with someone you trust, or even just on a voice note to yourself? Is it that you want to share something very exciting or profound or amazing that you just thought or saw, or you want to share an experience with somebody? Or is it that you are opening up your heart to somebody and just sharing something so vulnerable that you just need someone to hear and not fix the problems for? That there's so I feel like conversations that get so stressful for me now, Walnut, because I know the boundaries that I have put up for myself and the work that I've tried to do for myself. And I do disappoint myself sometimes, but I feel like sometimes conversations just lack that depth and this genuine care. Like we're just talking and then listening to the other person just so that we can respond back. And it's not actually doesn't go in. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes I feel like when I speak, my words don't go in to people. And that's that whole thing of not being felt like heard or listened to. Um, because because I am not a peacock boisterous loud walk into the room and everyone can hear me kind of person, like I kind of uh, feel like feel like I bring a different energy rather than like audible energy to a room. And yeah, I just feel yeah, it's hard to describe, right, Walnut? But I hope that you get what I sort of mean, but I just basically wanted to say that I would love if the world, aka us, could just try a little bit harder to think about the words that come out of our mouths and what we want the outcome of those words to be, and vice versa when we are hearing someone and sitting back and listening, actually taking in what they need, what they are saying, and a little bit of active listening and processing and filtering what they need to say, but really like genuinely taking it in and being grateful that we could have a not surface level conversation. I just, I think I'm just craving a little bit more depth in my life, Walnut. Um, the year I had of new jobs and things, you do so much of like chats about the weather and things that don't matter and things that I don't care about. And it sounds so savage, but I feel like I've lost a little bit of my meaning and I've lost a little bit of depth, um, because I feel like I have been just fighting, but I'm not necessarily like actual fighting, but I just feel like I've just been surface level, numb, walking through it all, and I'm kind of just craving a little bit more depth. And so yeah, I felt this like prang of like loneliness when I said just because I don't talk as loud as you doesn't mean that I don't get to talk or that my voice isn't valid. um that still didn't even make that person, that it didn't even go in for that person. The response that I would have liked would have been like, okay, I'd love to know, why don't you tell me how you feel about that? I've been invited to say how I feel, but that didn't happen because that person was a um you know wanted to continue to do more talking and not hear me. So yeah, I've felt a little bit lonely. I felt a little bit like lack of depth, and I'm just kind of craving a little bit more of that. So anyway, if I could have one request for this week, Walnut, is that intentionalness in conversations, whether it be with our actual voices or when we are listening to other people's voices, and a mutual sort of respect of depth, and how lucky and cool it is to be able to have something that's a little bit deeper than talking about the weather or the price of coffee or other topics that are probably that you talk about a lot more than what I can think of at the moment without examples. But um yeah, may you not feel like a lonely walnut that feels like their voice isn't valid. I'm talking to myself as well as to you. um have a happy Walnut Wednesday. And if you resonate with this, I'd love to hear from you. I would love to know what you think. Like I said, and I really appreciate that you are here and taking the time to listen to my voice. And I'm really lucky and fortunate that this is an outlet that I have created um, to be able to practice my voice, but equally as lucky and grateful that you're here, Walnut, and that I know that my voice is going to somebody who genuinely resonates with this. So I'd love to hear from you. if on all at Walnut Wednesday on all the platforms, on all the things, message, or you can join my group on Facebook. I'm around the internet. But just yeah, thank you so much for being you and for being here in my space. Honestly, Walnut Wednesday wouldn't be what it is without you. So you're just so special. And I just invite you to share your voice with me because I want to hear your voice too. Um, on that. Waffle Fest. What was the moral of your story, Laz? I don't know. So I hope you got a moral from it. But conversations are sacred. Our voice is sacred. Our ears and listening skills are sacred and special. And that's what they get to be as well. It's not just like a busy, 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 crazy life scroll through after 3 seconds. We get to have that depth. We really do get to have that. We just have to work a little bit harder to get it and hold it and be with it. So have a happy Walnut Wednesday, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.